Members, please proceed your seat. Please rise.
Sustenance, ready to fulfill this important calling in this place. Thank you for useful work and for the honor of bearing this responsibility appropriately. Thank you for the freedom to embrace you in your boundless nature and grace. Help all of us through these responsibilities to promote peace and order and justice. Give us clarity in what is truth and the ramifications if we do not follow it. Most importantly, give us strength to continue in that truth. Help us to value and always ask you for ample understanding when it comes to the welfare and true needs of our people, so that we may continue to fulfill what is good and fitting for our beloved Commonwealth of Kentucky. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate it. Mr. Clerk, sound the chimes. Members would indicate their presence on a roll call machine.
Concurrent Resolution 9 should pass, a concurrent resolution directing the Legislative Research Commission to procure a vendor to conduct a feasibility study for an Accountable Communities for Health Medical Delivery Model Pilot Project. Senate Joint Resolution 23 should pass, a joint resolution declaring Kentucky a food is medicine state and directing state agencies to advance food is medicine initiatives. The State Government Committee has met and reports House Bill 145 should pass, an act relating to state personnel. House Bill 567 should pass, an act relating to open records. And the Tourism and Outdoor Recreation Committee has met and reports House Bill 506 should pass with House Committee Substitute 1, an act relating to the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All those bills and resolutions receiving favorable committee reports shall be considered as having their first reading in order placed upon the calendar. House Bill 500 and House Bill 504, having received two previous readings, are ordered to the possession of the Rules Committee for further action. Next order of business is the orders of the day. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, that House Bill 500 and 504 be taken from the Committee on Rules and placed in the orders of the day.
Without objection, so ordered. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, that House Bill 500 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for a third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon its passage.
Motion made that House Bill 500 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon the floor for its passage. Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Bill 500, an act relating to appropriations measures providing funding and establishing conditions for the operations, maintenance, support, and functioning of the government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its various officers, cabinets, departments, boards, commissions, institutions, subdivisions, agencies, and other state-supported activities. Representative Petrie.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from Todd for explanation of the bill and motion thereon.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Todd for an explanation of the bill and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you will ask the clerk to report House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 500.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 500.
Gentleman from Todd.
Move for adoption.
Question for the body is on adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 500 is the executive branch budget bill. Good first draft of this bill. As indicated in my floor remarks back on January the 27th when we first introduced the bill, that was used to begin conversations, and there were people, some in some agencies, that availed themselves of that opportunity. Not included in that version, we had capital projects that were omitted. Agency requests were not approved and included. Medicaid was not addressed. Primary and secondary education not addressed. Post-secondary and many other issues, again, to start those conversations. It was not and could not be a proposal, especially without those items. We announced that this was very different from prior years where we would pre-package the budget bill and introduce and push along in the process. This was designed very, very differently. Process that we used has resulted in greater transparency. I've received several comments inside the chamber as well as outside thanking for the process and the most they had seen in a decade or better in their experience, and I appreciate those communications to us. And I will have to say unprecedented work because of this process with our Budget Review Subcommittee chairs. We won't be taking up transportation today, and I don't mean to exclude, but on the House Bill 500, the other 7 have done great work in their committees, vetting issues, fielding questions and comments from members as well as interested stakeholders, and they have unprecedented way dealt with issues and helped us gather that input and work our way through when we tried to bring the full package together with the committee sub. As always, this is a budget process, and I call this a good first draft. This is our good first draft that will come out of the House, but as you know, there will be a second draft, and although the Senate will mess it up, it'll come back to us, and we will work out our differences in conference committees. House Bill 500 is structured as follows. First, again, we separate out operational considerations from long-term investments. We focus on the operational investments over a 2-year period. That's the most immediate needs that we have, rather than long-term where we go for capital infrastructure projects and other longer-term needs. We did this in the 2024 session by bifurcating with different bills. At that time, we had House Bill 1 for one-time appropriations and then a regular bill for operational. We've continued with that theme this time. Operational budget, we focused again on the near-term needs for the next 2 years, and our stress, we focused on needs, not wants. Speaking of wants and not funding those with taxpayer money, we did not feed the appetite of $10 billion of additional funding from the executive branch's requests. We focused on those needs, and ultimately we ended up at about a restrained growth of spending in each year of a little less than 2%. So we have restrained that spending growth. 2% is a good benchmark for that, and I think we're like 1.9. We're right in that 2% target that we had set for ourselves. We achieved this in part by adopting the executive branch base reductions. Basically, that was a 1% that occurred for the FY26. We rolled that into 27, resulting in a 4. We added 3 on, and then a 3% reduction that would be in FY28. But the base reductions did not apply everywhere. We exempted out several budget units. Those include Veterans Affairs, ConC, Learning and Results, School Facility, County Cost, Medicaid benefits, behavioral health, family resource centers and youth services centers, juvenile justice, Department of Corrections, community services and local facilities, Department of Corrections, adult correctional institutions, Department of Corrections, local jail support, and the post-secondary performance fund. Still, while we exempted those things and applied the base reductions elsewhere, we were able to continue what this General Assembly has been doing at least since 21 and 22, is regaining focus on increments for state workers in the executive branch. And as we have done before, we have not withstood and gotten rid of a CPI adjustment for constitutional officers and elected officials, governor, those type things in the executive branch, and everyone, elected and unelected, are on an increment, and this is set as a 2% in the first year and another 2% in the second year. Likewise, goes right along with that salary increment. We have a 2% in one first year and a 2% in the second year regarding CLEP incentives and similarly situated incentives. We also have been able to address, I hope in large part, but not fully, the salary compression issue. Right along with increments, we've been dealing with salary classification studies, which were finally completed and have now been implemented. And then compression is the last issue, and I think this goes a long way toward that. For longer term investments, not operational, we again plan to use the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. As in 2024, we'll use a one-time appropriations bill for those longer-term investments. Accordingly, as we try to even plan for the next budget cycle, House Bill 500 budgets to deposit approximately 2% of our projected revenues over the next 2 years into the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, or approximately $614 million over the biennium. That would be about 2% of revenues projected at this point. From the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, we'll statewide intend to improve statewide improvements such as the grant program. I think last in 2024, we placed $200 million into that plan to help counties and cities and nonprofits and anyone that would partner up with them for things like infrastructure, workforce, sidewalks, roads, bridges, wastewater, water, and that program continues on, but it is funded from the one-time investments much longer. Likewise, the Product Development Initiative, statutory framework around it so that we can encourage economic development throughout the Commonwealth, funded from one-time funds. The W Waters program for distressed water districts for emergency needs as well as long-term infrastructure. Again, that same one-time funding. Specific regional infrastructure projects, water, wastewater, all kinds of infrastructure, as we've done before. And then similar smaller district projects, which otherwise likely would just fall through the cracks and not be addressed, but do have a quality of life effect on constituents of ours. So overall, you look at the numbers, the revenues expected to be about $5.9 billion in 2027, about $16.2 billion in 2028 fiscal year, so about $32 billion over the biennium. After appropriations, we should have approximately $614 million left over, restrain the growth in spending to 2% or less, and then take 2%, as we all should be doing in our households and business. We take part of our operational money, put it in a savings account or an investment account. We'll draw interest off of it and be ready for the next round of investment funding of long-term projects and long-term returns to Kentuckians. Mr. Speaker, to dig into the details of the budget itself and what's contained in House Bill 500, I'd like to rely on who I've been relying on during this session in much greater part than in years prior, the Budget Review Subcommittee chairs. Mr. Speaker, if I may, I would like to yield to the lady from Kenton 63 regarding primary and secondary ed and workforce development.
Chair recognizes the lady from Kenton 63.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This budget proposal makes significant investments to strengthen public education, support educators, and ensure long-term financial stability for schools across the state. We're making historic investments in education, but increased funding must be matched with measurable academic progress. Taxpayers deserve to see improved student outcomes along increased support. This means that $7.1 billion in taxpayer funding directed to public education through HB 500 must be accompanied by measurable improvements in student academic performance. Our proficiency scores for math and reading remain below 50% across all grades. Science and social studies proficiency scores are even lower. We must maintain an unwavering focus on the core mission of public education to educate our children. The HCS provides a 2% increase in each year for the base SEEK. This raises the guarantee funding factor to increase from $4,586 in FY26 to $4,626 in FY27 and $4,792 in FY28, providing an additional $369 million more in funding across the biennium. Transportation will be held at the FY26 appropriation amount of $398 million each year. We're providing equalization funding for the newly levied recallable nickels. Career and technical education funding and language remains the same as it has been in the budget since 2022. It fully funds statutory on-behalf payments to the teacher's retirement system and increases general fund support to equalize recallable nickel funding, helping to ensure more equitable funding across school districts. It also adds transparency measures requiring reporting per student state funding, including fringe benefit contributions. We have authorized infrastructure projects for the Kentucky School for the Blind, the Kentucky School for the Deaf, and the FFA Leadership Training Center. The plan prioritizes House majority support for fully funding health insurance costs for local school district employees, continuing full actuarial determined contributions to the teacher's retirement system, and addressing employer match deficits and the legacy benefit obligations. Investments are also included to maintain critical administrative systems to ensure long-term sustainability of retirement benefits. Overall, these measures reinforce the state's commitment to educational equality, educator support, student well-being, and the responsible fiscal stewardship, all of which are essential to maintaining a strong, effective public education system. The Education and Labor Cabinet, in this portion, the budget strengthens administrative support, modernizes infrastructure, and reinforces workforce development across the state. General administration and program support is authorized to a $4 million maintenance pool capital project funded through investment income to ensure facilities and operational infrastructure remain functional and efficient. Similarly, Kentucky Education Television is authorized 2 maintenance pool projects totaling $2.5 million to maintain and upgrade essential broadcasting infrastructure that supports educational programming statewide. Workforce Development receives a $2.3 million annual general fund increase to meet higher federal match and maintenance of effort requirements for the vocational rehabilitation grants to states' programs ensuring continued access to critical employment services for individuals with disabilities. An additional $1.4 million maintenance pool project supports facility and infrastructure needs in this area. Workplace standards include language clarifying funding youth employment programs and court-awarded expenses, reinforcing the state's commitment to work workforce readiness, and compliance with all legal obligations. Overall, these investments reflect a focus on maintaining core infrastructure, meeting federal partnership requirements, and strengthening workforce participation to support long-term economic growth. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman from Todd, 16.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For further information on post-secondary education, I would ask to yield to the gentleman from Barron, 23.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Post-secondary education and workforce development are fundamental to Kentucky's long-term economic strength, and this budget reflects that. We invest in affordability and access by expanding need-based aid and dual credit opportunities, strengthening workforce pipelines, and protecting the long-term stability of our colleges and universities. For college access and affordability, we provide $8.09 million in each fiscal year in general fund for the College Access Program, and $8 million in each fiscal year in general fund, plus $6.2 million in each fiscal year in restricted funds for the dual credit scholarship program, helping more students earn college credit while still in high school. For high-performing academic programs, we are increasing $108,900 in FY27 and $219,900 in FY28 for the Craft Academy at Morehead State University, and increase $108,900 in FY27 and $219,900 in FY28 for the Gatton Academy at Western Kentucky University. For workforce and professional training, we provide $369,600 in FY27 and $757,800 in FY28 in general fund for 10 additional veterinary contract slots to address workforce shortage in rural and agricultural communities. To protect campus facilities and address deferred maintenance, we authorize $190 million in bond funds for asset preservation pools for post-secondary institutions. We also support career and technical training through the Kentucky Community and Technical College System by providing $2,318,100 in FY27 and $1.33 million in FY28 in restricted funds for the Firefighters Foundation Program Fund to increase incentive payments for professional firefighters, increase aid to voluntary fire departments, and replace unsafe fire equipment. These investments strengthen affordability, expand workforce readiness, protect critical campus infrastructure, and ensure post-secondary education remains a strong driver of opportunity across the Commonwealth. With that, I yield back to the gentleman from Todd, 16.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For further information on health and family services, may I yield to the gentleman from Hopkins, 4.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hopkins.
Members, this budget strengthens Kentucky's health and human services safety net while also emphasizing accountability. It holds Medicaid steady, protects core services for our most vulnerable citizens, and ensures that we are implementing the policy direction set by our federal counterparts with the passage of House Resolution 1. We expand Medicaid waiver slots for individuals with disabilities, increase support for behavioral health and substance abuse disorder programs, and invest in community-based services, including child welfare, domestic violence shelters, and rape crisis centers. This budget also provides 125 new Michelle P. waiver slots, funded with $1.22 million general fund dollars, $2.87 million federal funds in FY27, $2.05 million general funds in fiscal year 28. It also provides 150 new community living waiver slots, funded with $3.46 million general funds in 27, $5.15 million general fund dollars in FY28. It also funds 175 new HCBS waiver slots, funded with $1.53 million general fund dollars in 27, $2.14 million general fund dollars in FY28. We also addressed the rising costs in public health, rural health transformation, and laboratory capacity. This includes $275 million in bond funds to expand the central laboratory and $212.9 million in federal funds each year for the Rural Health Transformation Program. This budget increases $43.5 million in FY27 and $58 million in FY28 to cover the state cost share of the SNAP administration fees. Finally, this budget includes $128,100 in general fund and FY27 to create a new pharmacist provider type and implement pharmacist payment parity in Medicaid and CHIP, expanding access to care, especially in rural and underserved communities, while keeping Medicaid benefits stable and securing any future reductions, prioritize services not expressly authorized by the General Assembly. With that, I'd yield back to the gentleman from Todd.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For more information on personnel, public retirement, and finance, I'd ask to yield to the gentleman from Christian 8.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Christian 8.
Speaker, I want to thank the gentleman from Todd for pulling more of us into this system and trying to craft this budget. So I do want to thank the gentleman from Todd who's done a lot of hard work, and we appreciate more of us being a part of it. Thank you. This portion of the budget prioritizes infrastructure modernization, operational efficiency, and strengthening the state's long-term financial obligations. Facilities and support services receive targeted increases in restricted funds to address essential operational needs, along with the authorization for $29.5 million in capital projects funded through investment income. These projects ensure state facilities remain functional, safe, and properly maintained while avoiding reliance on additional general fund dollars. The Commonwealth Office of Technology receives additional restricted funds to enhance cybersecurity and protect critical state systems, reinforcing the state's commitment to safeguarding sensitive data and digital infrastructure. Administrative improvements are also prioritized. The Personnel Board is provided funding for a new case management system, upgraded hearing room technology, soundproofing improvements, and adjustments to hearing officer compensation, modernization processes, and improving efficiency and fairness. Salary increment language is updated to ensure property valuation administrators are properly aligned with the compensation framework. Significantly, the Kentucky Public Pensions Authority receives major investments to modernize its pension administration system and address long-standing unfunded liabilities. The budget provides $78.5 million in additional support to reduce the unfunded liability of the KERS Non-Hazardous Pension Fund, along with funding for system modernization and a $15 million capital authorization to upgrade pension administration infrastructure. Overall, these measures reflect a disciplined approach to strengthening core government operations, modernizing outdated systems, enhancing cybersecurity, and making meaningful progress towards stabilizing the state's pension obligations. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to yield back to the gentleman from Todd 816.
Gentleman from Todd.
Speaker, thank you. For more information on the subject of general government, including constitutional officers and their functions, I would like to yield to the gentleman from Marshall 6.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Marshall.
Mr. Speaker, members, this budget strengthens core government functions that keep Kentuckians safe and ensures accountability. We made targeted investments in public safety, veterans, and local government support. For veterans, we increased staffing support by $5.1 million in restricted funds in 27 and $5.5 million in fiscal year 28 for the Thompson Hood Veterans Center, and $6.4 million in 27 and $6.8 million in fiscal year 28 for the Western Kentucky Veterans Center and $100,000 in general fund dollars in each year for the Homeless Veterans Program. We also authorized veterans capital projects totaling $16 million in bond funds, plus an additional maintenance and federal projects. And for infrastructure, the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority is authorized $185.4 million in federal funds in fiscal year 26 and $38.5 million in fiscal year 27. Also $27.6 million in bond funds in fiscal year 26 and $7.7 in 27, and $60 million in agency bonds in 26, primarily supporting water and wastewater projects. We also strengthen public safety and accountability with $10 million per year in restricted funds for the Body Armor Grant Program, $2.3 million and $4.6 million in federal funds each year for the Child Support Services, and $905,000 in fiscal year 27 and $587,100 in 28 for a new forensic lab in Western Kentucky. These are just a few of the highlights, Mr. Speaker. And with that, I want to yield back to the gentleman from Todd 16.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And for further information on economic development, public protection, tourism, and energy, I'd like to yield to the gentleman from Perry 84.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the gentleman from Todd. Our budget invests in economic growth, protects our natural resources, and strengthens public protection and tourism across the Commonwealth. In the Cabinet for Economic Development, we increase federal funds for the State Trade and Export Promotion Program by $135,000 in FY27 and $100,000 in FY28 to help Kentucky businesses reach new markets and create jobs. We also identify funding for the Certified Child Care Community Designation Program, the Financial Assistance Program for Nuclear Energy Related Projects, and the Pilot Tax Increment Financing Program, and authorize 3 capital projects totaling $30 million in bond funds to support site development and job creation. In the Energy and Environment Cabinet, we authorized $21 million in bond funds and $2 million in investment income for environmental protection capital projects, along with $1 million in investment income for maintenance needs to protect water quality and natural resources. In the Public Protection Cabinet, we increased restricted funds for professional licensing by $100,900 in FY27 and $100,000 in FY28. We increased enforcement capacity in the Division of Tobacco, Nicotine, and Vapor by 2.7 in FY27 and 2.2 in FY28, and increased staffing and enforcement resources for building code enforcement, electrical, plumbing, boiler, HVAC, and hazardous materials inspections. We also provide $750,000 in restricted funds in each fiscal year for insurance financial examination, actuarial contracts, and $225,000 in each fiscal year for property and casualty actuarial contracts, and identify funding for victims of crime services. In the Tourism, Arts, and Heritage Cabinet, we invest in Kentucky's tourism economy through major maintenance and capital investments, including $20 million in investment income for state parks, $3 million for the Kentucky Horse Park, $6 million for the State Fair Board maintenance pool, and $35.5 million in restricted funds and $18 million in federal funds for fish and wildlife capital projects, including $33.5 million for Kentucky Fish Hatchery and $5 million in investment income for the Old State Capitol Preservation Project. This budget also increases restricted funds by $250,000 in each fiscal year to support the transfer of $1.5 million in each fiscal year to the Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority. The Kentucky Mountain Regional Recreation Authority is especially important to me because it represents a long-term investment in outdoor recreation, trail systems, and tourism infrastructure all across eastern Kentucky. These projects bring visitors, support small businesses, and help diversify local economies in some of our most rural communities. This budget makes targeted pro-growth investment that strengthens Kentucky's economy, protects public safety, and supports the tourism and outdoor economy that so many communities depend on. Mr. Speaker, I yield back to the gentleman from Todd 16.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and those are great summaries within the respective jurisdictions and subject matters of the Budget Review Subcommittee chairs and in their committees. And again, I do appreciate their unprecedented work of gathering information and helping us think through each and every issue. And I will simply go back and reiterate one more thing, and you're coming, don't worry. We've got one more, don't want to leave her out, for some more on justice, public safety, and judiciary. An especially good presentation and especially good work. Yield to the lady from Kenton 65.
Chair recognizes the lady from Kenton 65.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public safety and the rule of law are fundamental, and this budget reflects that. We support law enforcement, training, and equipment, provide CPI-based salary adjustments for state troopers and commercial vehicle enforcement officers. We fund medical examiner services in Northern Kentucky and invest in juvenile justice and detention facilities. For the Kentucky State Police, we provide $3.8 million general fund and $1.8 million road fund in FY27, and $7.4 million general fund and $3.7 million road fund in FY28 to fund CPI-based salary adjustments for troopers and commercial vehicle enforcement officers. For corrections, we address rising medical costs and fund major maintenance and capital needs to ensure safe and secure facilities, including $4 million in FY27 and $9 million in FY28 in general fund for medical costs. For juvenile justice, we provide $6.5 million in FY27 and $12 million in FY28 to support the Jefferson County juvenile detention facilities. Mr. Speaker, I yield back to the gentleman from Todd.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with that, that's the last of our summaries, but I will do a little foreshadowing of whenever we take up the judicial budget. The lady from Kenton 65 does such a good job on House Bill 500 that she will be our exclusive and sole source of information about the details in the 504 budget for judiciary. Again, thank you to everyone that has helped on this. And in summary, I'll go back to revenues, approximately $15.9 billion in the first year, $16.2 in the second as projected, with appropriations growth in those not exceeding 2% in each year, with deposits into the Budget Reserve Trust Fund over the biennium of approximately $614 million, which would result in about 2% of our revenues being deposited into the trust fund in order to address longer-term needs of Kentucky. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move for final passage of House Bill 500 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.
Question before the body is passage of House Bill 500 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Shockingly, there is. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 42 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, it's my understanding that the budget pulls about $350 million out of the Department of Insurance Fund to the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. And it says that up to $250 million of that could be used to pay Medicaid claims in the future. Could you tell me why is that money being routed through the Budget Reserve Trust Fund rather than put directly into the general fund? And I ask that because I had an understanding that we didn't want to use the Budget Reserve Trust Fund for ongoing expenses.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good question. The funds in the Department of Insurance are restricted funds which come from receipts into that department and accumulate over a fairly lengthy period of time, and they do accumulate to a decent sum of money for restricted funds. If you were to move those restricted funds in the amount of $350 or $250 into the operational budget and basically substitute and supplant and support general fund operations, then what would happen is in the next budget cycle we would have to come up with the additional $250 or $350 in general fund dollars. So rather than do that, we transferred those restricted funds, which accumulate over time, treat them as a deposit into the reserve account so that we can use them one-time spending only. That's why we have designated that as a backup for Medicaid with those funds.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Will the gentleman yield to one other question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, as it relates to spending from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, does spending from the trust fund count towards any of the triggers for a tax cut?
Gentleman from Todd.
We have generally exempted out one-time spending. This is more of a backup. We also included, I think, in the 2024 session under House Bill 1, one-time appropriation, $60 million as a backup for Medicaid benefits in case it was necessary. This would be treated no differently than that, I would anticipate.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Speak on the bill.
Yes, sir.
Members of the House, most of you know that housing is a top priority of mine, and it is my belief that House Bill 500, as it stands, makes no investment in affordable housing, despite a growing affordability crisis that affects families in all of our districts, from the largest cities like mine in Louisville to the smallest towns like my family that's in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. All of the Kentuckians that I know and speak to are struggling to find stable housing that they can actually afford. I know it, you know it. And when those families can afford to rent or have a mortgage, everything else in their life becomes more stable. Workers are better able to keep their jobs. Parents can support the local businesses we all know and love. Children remain rooted in their schools and their communities. Seniors can age in place with dignity. And young professionals can build a future right here in our Commonwealth. But the new version of the budget, in my opinion, it does not provide relief for the rising housing costs that are being forced on working families, those same seniors and young professionals, and they have to leave our communities. Folks, people are spending the bulk of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. And that is not sustainable for our families, and it is not sustainable for our economy. I know we believe that investing in affordable housing strengthens Kentucky's workforce, supports economic growth, and it helps communities. And I know that because I participated in a housing task force this summer that heard from those very same people. And it was bipartisan work. And we know that when we invest in housing, our communities remain vibrant and competitive. Mr. Speaker, I filed a floor amendment today that I'd like to act on. It's House Floor Amendment 13 to House Bill 500. That amendment would deposit $123 million over the next 2 fiscal years into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Now, as the young folks like to say today, I think we got it. And that is being used to expand access to safe and affordable homes. Now, I'm new here. Things are moving kind of fast. And because of the sub that was adopted in A&R upon adjournment yesterday, the amendment I have, I understand, was not filed in enough time for it to be considered in order. But I would move for suspension of the rules in order for House to consider House Floor Amendment 13 to House Bill 500, and I'd ask for a roll call vote.
Gentleman from Jefferson's motion is for suspension of the rules. In interest of preserving your voices going forward, the motion to suspend the rules requires a constitutional majority, so it will automatically be a roll call vote. It is non-debatable, however, so those in favor of a suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing House Floor Amendment 13 to be called and acted upon shall vote yes. Roll call machine is open for your vote. Have all those voted aye that intend to vote aye? Clerk will take the roll. Being 20 votes in favor of suspension of the rules falls short of the constitutional majority of 51. Therefore, the motion fails. Gentleman from Jefferson, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm reminded of an old song that said, "Build me up, buttercup, just to let me down," and y'all did it today. I haven't worn my bow tie, just to add a little effort there, but in all seriousness, I think housing is a serious matter. And I'm disappointed that the House would not consider my floor amendment, simply because I truly believe that when every Kentuckian has a home, there will be a future for every family. And I would encourage this body, both now and in the future, to put our money where our mouth is to make sure that Kentuckians can have quality and affordable places to live. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Fayette 93 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I ask a question? The
He will
sponsor
yield to-
question?
He will yield to a question.
Thank you. Sponsor, does the new version of the budget contain any increases for preschool or extended school services, family resource centers in the schools, or the Center for School Safety?
Gentleman from Todd.
Trying to catch all of those
Oh, you want me to do them again?
at the same time. You will find some increase, no straight reductions, but not much increase in those that I can recall. No reductions, and I think on extended school services, we may have added language to make sure it was actually done after school, but nothing affecting the dollar figure on it. So straight increases, I don't recall any.
Lady from Fayette.
Thank you. May I ask one more?
He will yield to a question.
Thank you. Are there any funds that have been included for textbooks or teacher professional development?
Gentleman from Todd.
I recall no line item or anything in the bill that would refer to those words that you use. However, those funding functions are included in SEEK and in Tier 1 is the way we look at that.
Lady from Fayette.
Thank you. May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to begin by acknowledging the improvements that this new version of House Bill 500 has made. They are appropriate. They are much of what is needed. I'm thrilled over the $40 million for student transportation, because that's funding that wasn't included originally when this bill was introduced. And while we need to do more, that investment matters to districts across the Commonwealth. It matters to the families whose children we serve and who rely on safe, reliable transportation to get their kids to school every day. So thank you all for that. This version of the budget also takes a step in the right direction by including a small increase in SEEK funding. Those increases are welcome, but they're just not enough to keep up with the rising cost and the growing expectations that we keep putting on our public schools and our school staff. Because we have failed year after year to adequately fund public education, teachers and support staff are stepping in to fill in the gaps, and they've been doing this for years. They are purchasing classroom supplies, they are purchasing personal care items, as well as food for their students. And it's all coming out of their own pocket, just to make sure that the kids that they serve have what they need to learn. Our educators continue to show up for our children every day, and they are making a difference every single day. But Kentucky still remains 42nd in the nation in average teacher pay. Our teachers are being asked to absorb rising costs at home while personally subsidizing our education system at work, and this is unsustainable and unacceptable. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to act on a floor amendment. Today I filed House Floor Amendment 12 to HB 500. This amendment would give our teachers and our school support staff a well-deserved but small, meaningful pay raise. Our teachers and school staff shouldn't have to choose between taking care of their own families and taking care of our kids as the collective our. If we truly value public education, then our budgets have to reflect that commitment, not just in words, but in sustained, meaningful investment. Because of a committee sub being adopted yesterday in the House A&R Committee, the amendment I had
ready to file. This amendment I had ready, but I wasn't able to file it in enough time to be considered in order. So I move for suspension of the rules for the House to consider House Floor Amendment 12 to House Bill 500.
Motion of the lady from Fayette 93 is for suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing House Floor Amendment 12 to be acted upon. Motion is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Those in favor of suspension of the rules, vote aye. Roll call is open for your vote. Have all members intending to vote aye registered their vote? Clerk will take the roll. Being 20 members voting aye, the motion to suspend the rule falls short of the 51 vote threshold. Lady from Fayette, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I want to commend the LRC staff as well as the A&R chair and everyone who's worked with them to come up with the current budget that we see. It just simply doesn't go far enough when we are talking about the education of our children and the future of Kentucky. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Fayette 76 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I speak on the bill, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want to acknowledge that this budget makes some really important investments in our public schools. It provides funding for full-day kindergarten, and it does increase the SEEK funding, though not quite enough to keep up with inflation. These steps are a great start, and I'm really grateful for them. But while they're welcome, they really aren't enough to ensure that every child enters school ready to learn. 2023, more than half of our Kentucky children arrived on their first day of kindergarten already behind their peers. And I really wish that this bill had included provisions to expand access to pre-K for all of our kids. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to act on a floor amendment. Today, I filed House Floor Amendment 14 to House Bill 500, which would invest $46.5 million to expand pre-K access across the Commonwealth. Not only would doing this address kindergarten readiness, adding investment to pre-K to House Bill 500 would allow more Kentuckians to re-enter the workforce. There have been estimates from January till September 2024, over 70,000 Kentucky adults were not able to work because they needed to take care of at least one child who was not enrolled in school or child care. Implementing pre-K for all will help more Kentucky parents participate in the workforce, help grow our local economies. Because the committee sub was adopted yesterday in the House A&R committee, the amendments that were ready to go were not filed in time to be considered in order. So I would move for a suspension of the rules in order for the House to consider House Floor Amendment 14 to House Bill 500.
The lady from Fayette 76's motion is for a suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing action on House Floor Amendment 14. Motion is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Those in favor of suspension of the rules, vote aye. Roll call is open for your vote. Have all those in favor of suspension of the rules recorded their vote? Clerk will take the roll. In 19 members voting aye, the motion to suspend the rules falls short of the 51 vote constitutional threshold. Lady from Fayette, the floor is still yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I continue to speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Obviously, pre-K for all is something that I'm very passionate about. I believe we have collectively heard from about 70,000 Kentuckians through the pre-K for all initiative. That represents people across the entire state, my constituents and yours. It is something that I believe helps solve our problems upstream. It helps get kids ready for school. It helps our schools succeed by having kids who are ready to learn. It helps workforce participation. It helps families. It helps with our long-term growth and economic development, talent attraction, all of the above. So I'm disappointed, obviously, that my floor amendment was not considered in order today. I hope that this is something that we can get back into the budget through the process with the Senate and the Joint Committee. For now, I think my appreciation is that, yes, we did go through the budget subcommittee review process, and I appreciate that. However, I had a visit with a colleague earlier today from the other side of the aisle who quoted Ronald Reagan to the group of the Student Government Association from the University of Kentucky. And that's a very basic quote of trust but verify. And for me, I trust that my colleagues have gone through this budget reserve process, but I don't feel like we have been given the time to verify, nor have our constituents been able to verify the information that came out yesterday and is still not available on the LRC website. So for that reason, I hope that we can continue to do better and keep the transparency going. But thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Franklin 57 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, the retirees have not received a cost of living adjustment since 2011. That's 15 years. Is there a cost of living adjustment or payment in lieu for the retirees in this budget?
Gentleman from Todd.
Lady, good question. And no, there's nothing addressed for such an item in the operational budget, which is House Bill 500. That would be solely a one-time expenditure. Discussions prior have all revolved around a one-time expenditure bill, and as I understand the advocacy over recent years, at one-time 13th check, it would not be appropriate to include in the operational budget for recurring expenses.
Lady from Franklin.
Would the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
It is my understanding, with the short time we've had to review this, that the issues that are addressing compression in this are only CHFS and the Transportation Cabinet. Is that correct?
Gentleman from Todd.
That is correct. Those are two of our largest units with compression issues. A plan was presented by the executive branch some years ago. It didn't come to fruition. And then in the 25 session, another plan was presented. We think it may work. They have questions also. So we opted to do this as a pilot project, trying to hit the two most complicated pieces first. If it works there, it should work everywhere.
Lady from Franklin.
Just one quick follow-up with that. If somebody transfers
from... question.
Will you yield to another question, please?
He will yield.
Last one, promise. If somebody leaves, say, the Department of Revenue and goes to the Transportation Cabinet, how will the compression issues will still be there, is that correct?
Gentleman from Todd.
Transferring between sections like that is beyond my ability to answer. Personnel is very complicated, and I do not presume to be an expert. I rely on staff and executive branch when they engage on that issue, and personnel. We have explored it as best we can. Piloting was the best approach rather than implement it full system-wide and find out the problems then.
Thank you for that. Mr. Speaker, may I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
As the state representative for the Commonwealth's capital, my district is home to thousands of state employees. These are hardworking teachers, state troopers, social workers, bus drivers, and dedicated staff who keep our state government and the Legislative Research Commission running every day. Over the past several weeks, our offices have been flooded with phone calls, emails from constituents deeply concerned about what House Bill 500 would mean for their health insurance they and their families rely on. I was relieved to see that the version of House Bill 500 before us today removed the proposed cap on the state's contribution to the Kentucky Employees Health Plan, something that would have been unprecedented in our state budget. While I am grateful for this change, I wish this budget went further to take care of our state retirees who have not received a cost of living adjustment in over a decade. There's currently House Bill 406 that has been filed that has over 40 co-sponsors, and I have been told that this will not cross the finish line this year. So for that reason, Mr. Speaker, I would like to act on a floor amendment. I'm getting there. I filed House Floor Amendment 11 to House Bill 500. This amendment would extend the 13th check to our state retirees at a time when inflation continues to strain household budgets. Our retirees deserve this at a minimum. While it will not fix everything, it would provide real relief for families facing an ongoing affordability crisis. I tried to stress these points in bipartisan conversations about this because we do have the resources to act, and because addressing this affordability for working families and retirees alike should be a shared priority of this entire body. Because of the subcommittee sub being adopted yesterday in the House A&R Committee, the amendments we are ready to file were not filed in enough time to be considered in order. I move for the suspension of rules in order for the House to consider House Floor 11 to House Bill 500, and I would ask for a roll call vote.
Lady from Franklin, what was the number of that floor amendment?
11.
Motion of the lady from Franklin 57 is for a suspension of the rules. Suspension of the rule for the purpose of allowing action on House Floor Amendment 11. Motion to suspend the rules is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Those in favor of suspension of the rules, vote aye. Roll call is open for your vote. Have all members in favor of suspension of the rules registered their vote? Clerk will take the roll. 21 members voting aye. The motion to suspend the rules falls short of constitutional majority requirement of 51. Lady from Franklin, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would seriously like to ask the gentleman from Todd to consider the one-time appropriation to House Bill 406 to go ahead and fund this much-needed 13th paycheck for our state retirees. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 38 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentleman from Todd, does this budget include the $40 million in the last budget to help keep child care centers open by maintaining reimbursement rates?
Gentleman from Todd.
As I understand, child care is in the base at this point, so no additional language was needed. There were no changes made to those funding structures.
Lady from Jefferson.
Will he yield to another question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, am I understanding correctly that means that since we allocated the $40 million last budget, that this should be included in the base?
Gentleman from Todd.
My understanding is it should be, but I will qualify that. And the reason I qualify it is because the executive branch has previously taken money out of those allotments relative to child care and moved them in other places. So I don't know what allotment changes may or may not have been made to reduce that. I would hope that the base remains, but I know that there was $9 million taken out at one time.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, gentlemen, for answering that question for me. It's helpful, especially since we're doing things a little bit differently this year. Today, I also want to talk about the new version of House Bill 500 adopted by the committee sub. This version of the bill does not contain adequate support for our rural health care. And while my district is more urban than it is rural, I view it as my perspective that healthcare affordability and access is vital no matter where you live. Recent federal changes to Medicaid financing are placing Kentucky's hospitals, especially those in rural communities, at serious risk of losing services or even closing their doors, which I really hope is not the case. There are real threats facing hospitals that serve the front line of care for thousands of Kentuckians. And while Kentucky has received federal funding through the Rural Hospital Transformation Fund in H.R. 1, Those funds cannot be used to preserve existing services such as cardiology, oncology, OBGYN, emergency care, and other core services that families rely on every single day. Without the necessary funding from the federal government or in this budget, families may be forced to travel hours for emergency treatment. Expectant mothers may lose access to nearby maternity care, and patients with heart disease or cancer may face dangerous delays in treatment. This will also have a dangerous domino effect on our hospitals in the more urban areas that are already strained. The economic impact can also not be understated. Rural hospitals support good-paying jobs, stabilize local economies, and help attract businesses and families to town across the Commonwealth. And losing a local hospital does not just weaken healthcare, it would weaken the very backbone of rural Kentucky. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to act on a floor amendment. Mr. Speaker, we filed Floor Amendment 10 to House Bill 500. This amendment would place $50 million over the next 2 years into the Rural Hospital Assistance Fund. This investment would help hospitals remain open, maintain essential services, and continue caring for the communities that depend on them. This is not a partisan issue, and it is a community issue. It is about ensuring that Kentuckians, no matter their zip code, can receive life-saving services close to home. And because this committee sub was adopted in the A&R meeting yesterday, and the amendment I've drafted was not filed with enough time to be in order. Now here's where I kind of want to differ from some of my colleagues. I think that we should use this moment to make amendments to this budget bill, or at least consider them. Consider what our options are as House members, because we know our good friends in the Senate are going to make changes. Why don't we make sure that we are the ones to do it here rather than before we have to pass it over there? So even if that's not going to be our process this year, I strongly hope that we consider that in future years. So, Mr. Speaker, I move for suspension of the rules in order to call House Floor Amendment 10 and for it to be considered to House Bill 500.
Motion of the lady from Jefferson 38 is for suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing action on House Floor Amendment 10. Motion for suspension of the rules is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Those in favor of suspension of the rules, vote aye. Roll call is open for your vote. Have all members supporting suspension of the rules recorded their votes? Clerk will take the roll. 19 members voting aye falls short of the 51 vote threshold for suspension of the rules. Lady from Jefferson 38, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll continue to speak on the bill. As we all know, this budget is a work in progress. And as we work through this process, I hope that we address these changes in the coming renditions of this bill. And as we pass it over to the Senate. The Medicaid budget still has a long way to go, and I really hope that we, while trying to work on making sure that we limit fraud and misuse, that we do not do further harm to the folks that need Medicaid the most, especially our families in Kentucky in rural areas that rely on it so heavily. So I'm going to continue to remain passionate about that and appreciate the changes and the good work that's gone into the process so far. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Fayette 75 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Thank you. The most up-to-date forecasts from the budget director indicate that between federal matching funds and our proposed House budget, that the Medicaid budget will be short by $595 million in fiscal year 27 and by $913 million in fiscal year 28. That's leading to over $1.5 billion less dollars to our healthcare providers, including our rural hospitals. The governor's budget recommendation included estimates that were agreed to by the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and the Office of the State Budget Director in a process that's taken place for many years. That process has always served us well, and the estimates that they've given us in the past have typically been within 1% of our actual spending. My question is, Why is our Medicaid budget $1.5 million short?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you for the question, lady. First, I don't believe it's short. Number two, estimates, if there's been any revisions, they've not been shared with me. If it's talking about the numbers that were given previously, we've taken those into account. Also, I don't know that those projections are taking account of the eligibility decline and the HR1 effect. I don't know if it's taken into account House Bill 695 from last session and movements being made this session. And as far as the accuracy of projections, I would take issue with that. Medicaid may or may not be close. I think they're off this time, but they have missed SEEK shortfall twice in a row. They have missed counts on students. They have missed counts on add-ons, missed counts on a lot of other factors that we look at. I think generally they do a good, okay to good job. There's a good history of that. But in recent years, we've had many projections missed, and I wonder whether this is yet another one.
Lady from Fayette.
Thank you for the answer, Chairman. May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to important decisions, like how we treat the Medicaid program, I believe in erring on the side of caution, because what we're talking about is life and death, health and illness. Whether or not your mother or cousin or sister or neighbor will survive a health incident. Kentucky families are already facing rising healthcare costs, and the new federal requirements from HR1 are making it harder for people to remain eligible for coverage. If HB2 passes as currently written, the additional requirements could widen the gap even further. The House Committee substitute of House Bill 500 leaves an estimated $1.5 billion gap in Medicaid funding when accounting for lost federal dollars as well. That shortfall threatens services for families who have children with special needs, services for seniors, and people with living with disabilities. I prepared House Floor Amendment 9 to address the gaps. I'm proposing an appropriation of an additional $435.5 million over the next biennium to ensure that Medicaid is better funded where House Bill 500 falls short. This investment protects critical health services and helps Kentuckians afford and maintain coverage when they need it most. But my amendment does more than stabilize funding. It also protects the most vulnerable among us. I'm proposing an additional 125 Michelle P. waiver slots for a total of 250 new Michelle P. waivers for those who rely on mental health and intellectual disability services. These supports include behavioral services, day training, personal care, and home adaptations that allow individuals to live with dignity and their families to remain stable. For those families raising children with special needs, this program is not optional, it's essential. House Floor Amendment 9 also proposes adding 75 additional new HCB waivers for a total of 250 new home and community-based waiver slots to help seniors and individuals with disabilities live independently rather than institutions. These services include attendant care, home-delivered meals, and case management, supports that allow Kentuckians to age in place and remain part of their communities. In total, that's $6.6 million in additional costs to secure 200 more waiver slots than currently allotted in House Bill 500. It's our duty as legislators to ensure the people most in need are not forgotten. No child with disabilities, no senior at home, and no family should be left waiting for services that allow them to live safely and with dignity. House Floor Amendment 9 is about stability and responsibility. It's ensuring that every Kentuckian can access the health care they need without having to choose between coverage and basic necessities. Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules in order to consider House Floor Amendment 9.
Motion of the lady from Fayette 75, suspension of the rules for the purpose of allowing action on House Floor Amendment 9. Motion to suspend the rules is non-debatable, requires a constitutional majority of 51. Those in favor of suspension of the rules, vote aye. Roll call is open for your vote. Have all those in favor of a suspension of the rules recorded an aye vote? Clerk will take the roll. Being 20 members voting aye, motion to suspend the rules falls short of the constitutional majority requirement of 51. Lady from Fayette 75, the floor is still yours.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll speak on the bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 500 is indeed better than the start, but it leaves us wanting. It leaves us wanting for many things. And while the House Democrats' amendments were not considered today, we'll just leave it at that. I hope that we can take them up when it comes time to talk about how we'll spend from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund. We want to be part of the process. And I hope that no one ever thinks that we don't. We reach out individually, collectively, and ask for a seat at the table. And I'm asking now that you think about what it means to allow us to have a meaningful seat at the table. We represent constituents that you don't, and our constituents are no less important than yours. So we're doing a really hard job up here because you might get a seat at the table when we don't. And that's just wrong. And as a result, this budget is just wrong. It fails to consider many of the things that Kentuckians across the state need and deserve. And I hope that the Senate will do better. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Fayette 77 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
The budget appropriates hundreds of millions of dollars to the Budget Reserve Trust Fund, sometimes known as the Rainy Day Fund. Why is the House allocating additional funds to the Rainy Day Fund when it already contains $3.7 billion, one of the biggest in the country? Considering so many programs are cut or frozen, is it to try to hit the triggers for more tax cuts?
Gentleman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question, gentlemen. It is not to try to get tax cuts. There are multiple factors in reduction per the formula for reduction of the individual income tax rate. Only one of those is how much is in the Budget Reserve Trust Fund in relation to our revenues. Has no bearing whatsoever. As far as what goes into the trust fund, generically and on principle, as I've expressed previously today on the floor, we have operational concerns and we have long-term investment concerns. Both deal with the needs of Kentuckians. The operational budget over 1 and 2 years, and we have a little less than 2% of our revenues over the biennium going into the reserve trust fund, so that as I anticipate some of that is spent down in the reserve fund this session for those long-term investments like we did in 24, we make deposits so that when we come back in the 28th session, we are able to continue those long-term investments for infrastructure and other programs that I've mentioned previously today.
Gentleman from Fayette.
Would the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
This budget includes $220 million less for Medicaid benefits than the governor and the cabinet had requested using their consensus forecasting process, which in the recent past has been within 1% of actual expenditure levels. That's counting $250 million and a fund transfer to the BRTF. That could be used to help pay Medicaid claims. Why is the Medicaid budget short, and where does the number come from?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you,
Would you like to answer that question again?
I do, Mr. Speaker. I know that I have previously addressed the subject matter, and I would like to point out that as a backup matter, in case our calculations are off, I'll remind everyone that $250 million has been set aside in the Budget Reserve Trust Fund identified to assist in case those numbers are off. As far as the 200 and something million that you're referencing, I'm not sure about what those numbers are, but they could refer to an accounting trick that was recommended by the governor that would push the 12th MCO payment. There are 12 in a 12 calendar month. He had pushed $220 million from FY27 and said make only 11 payments and push that into the 12th, which is a shortage of Medicaid benefits. We did not do that.
Gentleman from Fayette.
Would the gentleman yield to another question?
He will yield.
Every year, tuition at public colleges and universities continue to increase, making the critical education out of reach for many Kentucky families. The governor's budget contained $28 million for this current budget for college financial aid programs. Are there any provisions in this budget to make colleges and universities more affordable?
Gentleman from Todd.
I wish that were something that could be done just by budget, Bill. We have made great strides in recent years to make sure that all of the lottery funds are attenuated to scholarships. That was not done in prior cycles before I became involved and before Republicans came majority in the House. We have since been doing that, and I understand from Council for Post-Secondary Education that the debt loads are going down for students graduating in Kentucky schools. We will continue to work on that, and included in this budget is to make sure that all those scholarships are still funded. Outside of the budget, I think there is a bill by the lady from Kenton 63 that might speak to addressment of tuition. I would encourage you to look at that bill and some other bills regarding capping tuition, as well as involving CPE in the conversation. Council for Post-Secondary Education, who is supposed to be overseeing rate increases at the higher education level.
Gentleman from Fayette.
I just have one final comment, Mr. Speaker, and I take comment from Pharaoh from the movie The Ten Commandments, and he said, "Let it be written, let it be done." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Rockcastle for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hadn't really intended on speaking until I heard the comment, "I wish we had a seat at the table." I've been Vice Chairman of Appropriations and Revenue for 3 years. In that time, I've had over 3,000 meetings. We have not turned a single one down, especially from a legislator. Do you know how many times in the hallway or how many conversations I've had with members of the minority about any of these floor amendments that have been filed? Zero. These cameras turn on, you act like you're doing something, but when it comes time to work, nobody ever asks. So you can have your press conferences, you can file your amendments, but do the work. We all want to see more taxpayer dollars spent in appropriate manners. We want to see more education funding. We want to see more money for our universities. We want to see, you name it. We want to see more Medicaid funds. But the fact of the matter is, we have to live within our means. This past January, February, I can't remember at this point, the Auditor of Public Accounts came into the Appropriations and Revenue Committee to highlight $130 million in questionable spending by the executive branch. I've gone through and added up some of these floor amendments. Affordable housing, 120. Well, maybe if we weren't spending, I don't know, $7.5 million for out-of-state travel, for just going to Switzerland, $5,000 for a limousine ride, $12,000 for hotels in D.C., $11,000 for flights to Europe, $10,000 to stay in Palm Beach, $7,600 for a limousine ride, $5,491 to go to Japan, $4,671 for a vehicle in Switzerland, I mean, we can go on and on. $130 million in questionable spending. And that's not counting the $800 million in excessive payments to people that don't live in Kentucky for Medicaid. So we can talk about all of this stuff that we would like to see, because guess what? I would like to see a lot of it too. But the fact of the matter is we have to live within our means. When we add up all these floor amendments here, there's a lot more than we can afford to pay for. So file your floor amendments, but guess what? Maybe come have a conversation with us. Because whether you know it or not, we write the budget. We have never once turned down a meeting request from anyone in the minority. But never once has any of this stuff ever been brought up. Mr. Speaker, I wish this wasn't the case. I like to work in a bipartisan manner. I trust you all when you say you want all of these things, because guess what? We want them too. But there are things we can afford to do, things we need to do in order to move the Commonwealth forward. And we can't just file and spend recklessly. I mean, pre-K for all, that sounds like a great idea. Who doesn't want our kids to have better education? But guess what we're still waiting on? I've asked since October, how many more staff members are we going to have to hire? How many more buildings are we going to have to build? And guess what? I've not got the answer yet. And that was in October. Then in the BR Education Subcommittee, I asked again. Still don't have the answer. And then after that, we followed up one more time. Still don't have the answer. We've gotten to a point where we can't get answers from the executive branch. We've had to issue subpoenas for the most basic things so that we can fully fund our health insurance program going forward, because guess what? There's a sustainability issue there. And if we don't know what's going on, how can we expect to fund it another 30% increase next year? We can't. So how about a little cooperation or a little collaboration? Because that's what we need. When we write a budget, there's a lot of stuff we'd love to have in there. But we can only fund so much, and we have to make sure we fund our needs and not our wants. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Campbell for discussion of the matter. State your point.
I rise on a matter of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker.
Lady from Fayette, we are in the orders of the day and in a debate of a bill. You've already spoken on the bill. You will be re-recognized after the other members have spoken. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Campbell.
So, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hard to follow that, but you know, could I ask the gentleman from Todd or perhaps the lady from Kenton 65 a little bit more about the Kentucky State Police budget?
Gentleman from Todd. Gentleman from Todd will yield.
Yeah, okay. So I understand, I mean, the governor's proposed budget did not exempted the Kentucky State Police from any cuts, from the 4% and the 7% in the second year. When I first saw House Bill 500, it appears that the state police were not exempt from that. And I haven't really, I'm just curious, with House Committee Sub 1, have you restored the funding to the Kentucky State Police, or are you still keeping the 4% and 7% cut?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. Relative to KSP, and I'm pulling this from memory, it seems like the proposal from the executive branch may have included a $4 million reduction in each year. Don't hold me to that, but I think that may be the case. As far as whether House Bill 500 and Committee Sub restores or exempts them. It does not. It would be a reduction. We think they would be able to continue all services. However, I will disclose to you that about 2 hours before the sub was released to members of A&R, we received a letter from the Commissioner of Kentucky State Police. He had not previously communicated any concerns whatsoever. We received 1 or 2 of those letters about the time the committee sub went out from various agencies, as well as maybe 1 after we'd already held the committee meeting. So we are investigating to see if there is a need. The base reductions were not exempted from KSP in the committee sub.
Gentleman Campbell.
Yeah, thank you. Could I ask a follow-up as well?
He will yield.
Yeah, just along the same line. I mean, Kentucky State Police had requested, I think it was another $107 million for their radio system upgrades. I don't know, is that something that would usually go in this bill, or is that considered a one-time appropriation that would go into the other bill?
Gentleman Todd.
Thank you for the question. I believe that's on the SERVS program that would place KSP radio repeater towers, I call them microwave, across the Commonwealth. It's a project that's been discussed in legislative oversight and investigative committees and other places. There are no additional bond funds authorized in the committee sub to House Bill 500, and the reason being is that this project that spans the entirety of the Commonwealth to make sure we have a backbone of communications for Kentucky State Police began its funding and began in 2018. Throughout the remainder of the Bevan administration, I don't recall what progress they made, but from the time of the Beshear administration until now, they have done very little as far as making their way across the Commonwealth. The great bulk of that work remains in front of them. I would be surprised if it's finished by 2032 with best efforts at this point. It's so far behind. And to get right back to your question and bring it around, they have, I think, over $100 million of authorized bond funds still available. At the pace that KSP has been working this project, it may be 2029 before they actually need more authorization because they have operated so slowly. And that is not a dig at KSP. I think there are some conditions beyond their control. We want this project to move forward, and when we see that happening, and even if there were great progress made in the calendar year of 26, then we will definitely come back in 27 and make sure they have the funding to continue. But first, they have to use what's already been authorized.
Gentleman Campbell.
Yep. Thank you for that. Could I make a comment on the bill, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate the answers from the gentleman from Todd, and appreciate you mentioning, yes, the concerns expressed by the Commissioner of the Kentucky State Police. Because what really concerned me the most was this idea that after, this state has spent a whole lot of time, and the legislature has spent a lot of time supporting the recruitment activities at KSP, and that's finally been successful. But, as you mentioned, there's a real concern that if we don't fund them at the same level we have been, we may see smaller cadet classes or no cadets in the future. So I certainly hope this is something that gets addressed as this process goes forward. And I would like, if you don't mind, I'd just like to wish you a happy early birthday. And you probably earned a break tomorrow. So thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 34.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman from Todd yield to a question, please?
He will yield.
Thank you. Just a heads up, there's no amendment to be called here, so everybody take a breath. Or give me a round of applause, whichever feels appropriate for you. I want to talk about our kids and our kids in care. That's obviously something that that is important to me. We've had several conversations about that. So I want to first start by asking the question, the Department of Community-Based Services, I see, was cut $104 million in the general fund compared to what the governor had put out. So I just want to better understand what's being cut, because I'm not clear on that.
Gentleman from Todd.
First off, I'm not trying to play word games, but it's good that we be careful about our language. We're talking about a cut in one bill versus a proposal in another that's not before us. So looking at prior funding as opposed to what we have now before us, I don't know that any base reductions would be that significant. Don't have the dollar figure in front of me, but I don't think that they would be.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you. Would the gentleman yield to another question, please?
He will yield.
Thank you. That's a good point. So thank you, gentlemen, for pointing that out. What I would like to know next is, does this new substitute contain any increases to foster care or out-of-home placements or behavioral health?
Gentleman from Todd.
No increases of which I'm aware on the first two, but when you say behavioral health, I go to BDID, and I believe there was some additional funds to cover an item in there.
Gentleman from Jefferson, lady from Jefferson 34.
I'll be the lady today. Thank you. Will the gentleman from Todd yield to one final question, please?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you. Gentlemen, can you help me to understand, was the fictive kin bill that we tried to address in Senate Bill 151, this was in 24, is there any funding in this substitute to address that issue? And if so, let me know what page.
Gentleman from Todd.
If I'm recalling the bill correctly and the subject matter, that would be funded through the general fund appropriation within the budget unit. I believe that bill may be referenced at the end of the budget unit that says something like, included in the general fund appropriation here and above is sufficient funds to implement reference bill.
Lady from Jefferson 34.
Thank you. May I speak on the bill, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I want us to be careful with, thank you for answering my questions, gentlemen, and for all the work that you and so many people have put in on this budget. I want us to be careful with the term sufficient funds are included, because I feel like with some of the information that I'm getting mixed messages, so I'm not confident, and I'm not accusing anybody, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. I was disappointed to see that we could not get this through in 24, and there was issues about funding and did we need it, did we not, how much. At the end of the day, this topic isn't just a topic for me or a talking point. As someone who is a former foster parent for 6.5 years, this is obviously extremely personal to me. And it's extremely personal to the almost 10,000 kids that are in out-of-home care, to those families who do not have their kids with them at that time. This is personal for individuals who have taken in relatives for those fictive kin, to make sure that they have the support and specifically the financial support that just comes with raising children. So I just would make a plea that whether it's the House or the Senate, and I know we always like to take care of things right in the House the first time, that we can confidently say that children who are in foster care are taken care of, because they are an extremely vulnerable group of people, as I think we all can agree in here. And I want to make sure that they know that they are not being forgotten by the General Assembly. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 35 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Thank you. So it's been brought to my attention really just in the last couple of days that the previous version of House Bill 500 was going to basically put the rape crisis and the domestic violence centers out of business. And so I'm curious if in this committee substitute, if there has been funding restored to those centers.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, lady, and I know you're genuine in that statement and in that question, but I do have to respond candidly with you. Agency official affirmatively reached out to those three entities after the introduction of the bare bones version of House Bill 500 and informed them your funding's been cut. We investigated and then had the agency come into appropriations and revenue. And under testimony, under oath, she admitted that the funding had not been cut. And the funding remains in there, and we have made sure that the entities that you referenced and their good work were in that committee room that day so they could hear the answers themselves. And we've made sure that that funding is good and the lobbyist on their behalf is confirmed, and they're taken care of.
Lady from Jefferson.
That's both very disappointing and very reassuring all at the same time. So I appreciate that response, sponsor. I do have another question.
He will yield.
If you will yield, thank you. And this is a conversation the sponsor and I have had many, many times over the past several years, good conversations about school mental health. And I was curious, there's one really important, great change that I saw in the school mental health that I would like to talk about after this, but I'm curious about the funding amount. Has that amount of, I think it's $7.4 million, has that remained steady or has that increased, we hope? Or where is that dollar amount right now?
Gentleman from Todd.
That dollar amount is in the base and it remains consistent.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you for that. So may I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I am going to speak specifically about school mental health. The gentleman has worked very diligently, and I have been a bit of a watchdog to make sure that that money has stayed protected. My other concern has been that the money, the way it has been apportioned, has been really problematic. It's about $7.4 million. It's just been divided equally among 170 or so school districts. So every school district gets about $44,000, whether you have 170 schools in your school district or whether you have 2 schools in your school district. And that has seemed to me not very equitable. And that's another conversation that the sponsor and I have had many times. And I was very, very happy and heartened to see that there is a distribution of those funds, a new formula that will go, well, the formula is still to be devised, that will go to the Kentucky Center for School Safety to make recommendations based on Medicaid billing and based, from my perspective, most importantly, on what the school districts are doing with the trauma-informed plans that were required by the School Safety and Resiliency Act that we passed back in 2019. That's been landmark legislation. It's been really good. That trauma-informed schools piece is so incredibly important. And we understand that those dollars that we're investing in school mental health, it's not just for those mental health providers to meet one-on-one with students. It's for those mental health providers to be actively involved in their schools, trauma-informed planning and implementation, to make the schools themselves psychologically healthy spaces where kids can feel safe, where kids can thrive. And I was really happy to see that piece added in the budget, that's going to be taken into account for school districts to be able to receive these school mental health funds. So for that, I just want to thank the sponsor.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 32 for discussion of the matter.
Yes, sir. May I ask the sponsor a question?
He will yield.
All right, gentleman from Todd, you stated in committee yesterday that the SEEK transportation appropriation of $398.8 million was based on the fiscal year 26 numbers. Do you know what percentage of that appropriation is of the total costs for SEEK transportation?
Gentleman from Todd.
I'm not aware, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I'm not sure of the absolute number difference or whether it be a percentage difference, but what I can say is that we've used as a basis the FY26 numbers. And as I stated, I think in committee yesterday, this is going to be a moving target as we proceed through the rest of the budget process on transportation. we understand that it is likely that KDE will have yet newer numbers coming out next week or the week after, I hope next week, and so we'll be talking about what numbers we use yet again.
Lady from Jefferson.
May I speak on the bill?
Yes, ma'am.
So I pulled the fiscal year 25 transportation costs from KDE, and it's $487.9, which put us at 74% funded in fiscal year 25 and 82% funded in 26. So that's money that's going to have to be made up by the districts with other general fund appropriations. I want to speak a little bit about total K through 12 education funding, including the teachers' retirement system. So in 1991, the total amount was $1.987 billion. And since then, inflation-adjusted investments in public education have remained relatively flat, with funding in fiscal year 26 down 11.8% from a fiscal year 17 high, as looking at that number in inflation-adjusted numbers since 1991. That given, flat funding that keeps up with inflation is better than decreased funding. So our SEEK increase of $40 per student in fiscal year 27 is less than a 1% increase, and the fiscal year 28 is a 3.5% increase. Our current annual inflation rate is 2.4%, and I'm hopeful that that inflation will remain at a level that does not eat up the increase in SEEK funding. I have a couple of concerns, and this kind of in the weeds, but in the shared responsibility aspect of the bill, there is language that says teacher contributions to the medical insurance fund, employee contributions are not to be changed in this biennium. So that means even if the medical insurance fund employee contribution, if the medical insurance fund becomes fully funded, my 3.5% additional contribution to the fund will continue, where the original shared responsibility plan was that that could be mitigated or ended. A second concern, of which I've spoken multiple times with the sponsor, is the continued language regarding test scores being posted on school and district websites. These scores are being interpreted in a way that they are not psychometrically designed to be interpreted, and the scores do not represent grade level performance. There are celebrations for public education in this budget bill. The cap on employer contributions to state employee health insurance has been removed. That is a great sigh of relief for many educators. Our pensions are fully funded. The total Department of Education general fund appropriation for all of Department of Education increased by $172 million for fiscal year 27 and $233 more in fiscal year 28. So that's a win. We are putting more money into public education. My question is this appropriation going to be enough to cover district costs for the school mental health providers, as the lady from Jefferson just shared, additional costs for SROs and their equipment, additional costs for districts having to pay that extra balance in transportation, and the suggested pay raises as designated in the bill? All in all, I think this is a pretty solid public education budget. I know we can look at it different ways, but if I had another 24 hours, I would probably come up with more concerns and more celebrations. But I, as an educator, do see this General Assembly valuing public education in Kentucky. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 41 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question and a comment. Thank you.
Question first.
Question first? Yes,
We
sir.
yield to a question.
The governor, a gentleman from Todd, you're still back there. You haven't left yet, have you? The governor's proposal has included $19 million for senior meals. And in health services, we just passed a resolution, Food is Medicine, that recognizes our agricultural department and how important Kentucky-grown vegetables and fruits and proteins are. So we know that's important for our seniors. But did that stay in the budget, the $19 million for our seniors, for their meals?
Gentleman from Todd.
As far as the senior meals program, and I think we all addressed that last fall fairly considerably, there was no additional budget request by any agency on that matter. The funding that would have been in the base previously should still be there. In addition, I know there were additional funds of about $9 million that were moved by the executive branch into that unit. I do not know if they fall into the base at this point or not. However, the funding would be consistent from prior, as well as no additional budget requests from the agencies.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chair. I wanted to respond a little bit to the gentleman from Rockcastle because I know you all are really busy, and you all did give me, I met 3 times with you all and had plenty of time to talk about my budget requests and my needs, so I really appreciated that. And so I'm trying to do the work, so I just wanted to let you know that I did get a chance to meet with y'all 3 times, and I really appreciated that. But when we talked, when the gentleman did talk a little bit about our chief executive and his budgetary expenditures traveling, I think we need to recognize that our leadership, both sides, and our chief executive and staff need to do those travels across the country and across this world now that we're a global economy to promote our distilled spirits, since they're suffering right now, to promote Kentucky products and to recommend Kentucky counties that are great for other countries to come and build a manufacturing plant, or to explore Eastern Kentucky as far as the road racing goes, which I met in a tourism committee last year. Had no idea there was road racing going on in Eastern Kentucky. So I think that we can't expect our chief executive, our leadership, or the chief executive of this country to stay in a Motel 6. I'm sorry. Or to drive a Pinto around. I don't even know if they still make Pintos, but maybe. Do they, Mr. Speaker? I don't know. But I think we need to really not come down on expenditures, because we really we would expect our executives and our leadership to go out to other countries, to other states, to maybe steal industry from other states and bring it here, but to improve our economy, to sell our products, to push our products that we need to desperately sell. I know our bourbon industry has been suffering this last year, but we really want Japan, we want Spain, we want England to buy that bourbon and put it on the shelves and pay those prices for it, so our people here in Frankfort and Lebanon and Marion County, that where the distilleries are, can continue working. But again, I want to thank you guys for meeting with me and having the time. And hopefully when this budget makes its way, we'll keep working on it. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Floyd for discussion of the matter.
Will the sponsor yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, I do greatly appreciate that it sounds like many of the issues my constituents were concerned about have definitely been improved upon. But because the committee sub for this 227-page bill was only available for review online today, I do have a couple of questions that may or may not have answers. My first question: does this continue to send 100% of coal severance money back to coal counties alone?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, lady, for the question. On the technical part, The committee sub was posted on the website at 7 p.m. last night for public viewing, as well as the committee members receiving it the day prior. As far as the funding that you referenced, there were no changes to the coal sheet in this version. So what has been last cycle is what is included in this cycle.
Lady from Floyd.
Thank you. Sorry about 7 o'clock last night. I was at the district tournament where my daughter scored her 1,000th point in high school basketball. So I wasn't able to review it at that time. So thank you for your, will he yield to another question?
He will yield.
So does this continue funding the pool that we have previously approved in the past budget cycles for allowing our school districts, which have already applied in many cases for improvements to our outdated ATCs, to receive that, continue receiving that special funding? If I remember correctly, and I hope we can look forward to this in the one-time funding budget bill, but if I remember correctly, we have actually included up to maybe $1 million for these districts in the past 2 budget cycles of the operating budget. And if I am correct, I believe only about less than 20 school districts remain to receive this type of funding.
Gentleman Todd.
I'm trying to answer your question as responsively as possible. If this is for offers of assistance, we are continuing with that this time. I believe it's about $40 million that was included to go through the SFCC, and those offers do accumulate in aggregate over years to a district, as I understand. So that funding is in the bill before us.
Lady from Floyd.
Thank you very much. I'm certain I'll have other questions, but I do hope to see this bill continue in the right direction, and thank you for all the work you've done.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 46 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
Gentlemen, first off, before I ask the question, I want to follow up with some of my colleagues by saying thank you for you and your team's efforts on this work. And regardless how some of us might feel about the bill, either in agreement or disagreement, we still need to acknowledge the amount of effort it takes to produce a document like this. So I appreciate your efforts of you and your team. As far as the question, gentlemen, does your team start the budget process with a review of the governor's recommended budget and edit it from there, or do you just kind of ignore it and prepare your own?
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. We start well before the governor's recommendation. So when we finish up this cycle, this budget cycle, I will ask everybody to take a break from April the 15th through the end of that month. And starting May 1, we start back on the budget for the next cycle in the 28th session. And we consider all inputs starting May 1 of 26 all the way through beginning of the budget cycle in 28, and any additional inputs that we receive, including what may be included in the governor's recommendation, which is not shared with us in any form or fashion before we get into session. But we take into consider as many inputs as we can. It would be much preferred if that input would come before session, when the real work needs to be done for breadth, depth, and ripple effect analysis on all issues to make sure that not just the individual items, but the whole is also well balanced. I invite that at any point in time. I have invited that over many years and have yet to receive that any earlier than all of us do when it's filed.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Thank you, gentlemen. Would the gentleman yield to another question, please?
He will yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, I've noticed in his budget several agencies had their operating budgets reduced from what he had recommended and including property valuation administrators, KET, workforce development, public health. Could you please share any rationale you have on why those numbers were reduced, or is it just a different opinion?
Gentleman from Todd.
I do not recall the individual numbers on those, that small list of items. I can tell you that as we go through the additional budget requests, one of the pieces of information we have is what the governor's recommendation was on that particular item. And taking 3 or 4 items out of the entire whole of 800 and something agency budget requests, the rationale at the end is how do we balance all concerns the best way we can.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you yield to one last question, please?
He will you.
Thank you. Does this budget include like across-the-board cuts to certain agencies or programs? And if so, what is that number if it's a across-the-board cut?
Gentleman from Todd.
There is no across-the-board cut, so I'll go back to original explanation. We took certain budget units and exempted them from any base reduction percentages, but base reduction percentages is only relative to what's in the base. Then we have additional budget requests that get approved that come over the top of that. That makes it a very changing and fluid number.
Gentleman from Jefferson.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 40 for discussion of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
He will yield.
Thank you. Sponsor, I just have a very specific question about the juvenile justice portion of the bill. I know back in 2023, we passed Senate Bill 162 into law. I believe it passed both chambers unanimously, and it contained a requirement that the Department of Juvenile Justice create a regional model so that these youths could be housed closer to where their family was, their community supports were. But it also had a requirement for facilities for males and females to be separated and for violent and nonviolent offenders to be separated. And I know that you've appropriated here over $18 million for the 2 Jefferson County facilities. I was just wondering where the separation of the nonviolent and violent offenders and then male and female offenders would be, how that would be paid for, or how that's considered in this budget.
Gentleman from Todd.
It's not directly addressed in this committee substitute. We chose not to for the following reasons. As you've indicated, we put additional funds in to hopefully finish up or close to finish up the 2 facilities in and around Jefferson County. Well before we started those projects, the executive branch had encountered difficulty with male, female, violent, nonviolent, and mixtures. I remember being on a small group a few years ago, and after investigation, fairly lengthy, I believe that was a gentleman from Jefferson and maybe a senator from the Paducah area. The end conclusions were it was mismanagement at the executive branch level that created those problems, lack of training, lack of personnel oversight. I think there have been some lawsuits that come out since then. It's not our opinion at this point that any more facilities need to be constructed or dealt with. It simply needs to be managed properly with what we already have, in addition to the funding we've put in to finish up, hopefully get up and going appropriately the 2 facilities in and around Jefferson County.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you, sponsor, for that explanation. And like the lady from Floyd, I'm sure as we drill down on the provisions, the specific provisions in this budget, I may have additional questions. I appreciate all the work that you and the vice chair and the members that have provided us explanations here today about what is contained in this legislation, in this budget. And I appreciate the open door policy. But I wanted to make sure that we were not going to repeat some of the tragic incidents that facilitated the passage of that bill, and make sure that we ensure safety for our juvenile offenders. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 43 for discussion of the matter.
Will the gentleman yield to a question?
He will yield.
We've added $3.7 billion to the reserve fund, and it totals about $4.4 billion right now, one of the largest in the country. We've heard that one-time spending from the reserve fund will be in another bill, including perhaps the 13th check. When can we expect that bill?
Gentleman from Todd.
Well, the most definite response would be by or on the filing deadline. A more cultured or more rounded response will be we are working on it now, and we will get it filed timely, and we will work it through the process like all other bills.
Yield to a second question.
He will yield.
While you're working on that one-time filing bill, will you include me and people on the team to help you process and form that bill before you file it?
Gentleman from Todd.
There was, I apologize, but there was a cough back here, and I think I caught most of that question. So as the lady from Jefferson, and I don't recall the number, indicated earlier, she appreciated us meeting with her regarding budget requests. I want to clarify that those budget requests that she referenced were one-time funding issues relative to the one-time appropriation bill. I have met with 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 members of the minority party in the House regarding funding issues. All of those meetings have been regarding one-time funding, which would be in the bill you referenced. Further, as you know, I came to your caucus meeting retreat and talked about the budget process and how to be involved, and several of your members have availed themselves of that process and completed the budget request form and some supporting documentation and have provided that to us, and that is very much the extent of the involvement of anybody else in this chamber.
Lady from Jefferson 43.
Thank you. Those are exactly my remarks. This minority caucus has participated at every level. We've followed the rules. We've done what you've asked us to do. And yet, because you're big mad at the governor, you want to say we're lazy and not doing the work. I know how hard this staff works. And how dare you suggest that they're not doing the work? They've talked to many of you about your bills, about the portions. They've met separately and privately in the hallways, and they are doing the work. We've submitted 92 budget requests. We've been in conversations with a lot of people. And additionally, we've been in communication with the chairman of the budget requests. Now, what's frustrating is because you're mad and ranting and raving about the governor and what he does and doesn't do, doesn't give you the right to be rude to your colleagues. It also, being big mad at the governor, doesn't give you the right to not house the homeless. It doesn't give you the right to not feed children. It doesn't give you the right to not give people health care because they need it. You can't live in this body without health care. The fact remains that health care and eating are not wants. They are needs. And for this body to suggest that only some people need it and others don't is a problem. We have chosen over and over and over and over and over and over again to deny the poor people, the working people of this state, what they need just to live as human beings. They're not asking for a trip to Paris. They just want to feed their children. And we come up with all types of excuses about why. Well, they should work harder. Or if you have cancer, you should pay the $20 copay or don't get treatment. That's not who we say we are. And I'm disappointed that my colleagues, whom I work very closely with, would imply anything less than the professionalism of the team I lead.
Question for the bodies. Passage of House Bill 500 is amended by House Committee Substitute 1. Clerk will sound the chimes. Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed nay. Roll call is open for your vote. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Fayette, 45, for explanation of vote not to exceed 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some good with the bad on this one today. First off, I do want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and the members of this body who did allow the debate to take its full course today and never tried to stop things early. And I hope that we all continue that through the remainder of this session this year. And then some of the, also want to thank those who added in my original House Floor Amendment 4 we see on that screen to fully fund SNAP the next 2 years. So thank you for making that adjustment to the committee sub. I do appreciate that, members of the A&R committee. But I want to go back to the award-winning speech that my good friend from Rockcastle delivered to us earlier. He mentioned the importance of the process and doing things the right way. And I think that applies to these bills that come to the floor as well. Yes, this was sent out at 7 o'clock last night, and we all could look at it. That being said, I do get frustrated when we have these amendments that cannot be called, that are out of order, that we have to suspend the rules to call. And I do think that's a disservice to this institution. It is a disservice to the way that the rules are written, that we can have a full-fledged and healthy democratic debate in this chamber. And I hope that we reflect on that as we move forward and try to do things the right way on behalf of our constituents and the people from Kentucky whom we serve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, 46, for explanation of vote not to exceed 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman before me kind of stole my thunder a little bit, so you guys know how much I love the process of substitutes and suspension of rules, and again, it's one of the things that sways me to vote no. And I'll just briefly say this in further explanation of my no vote today. When the process of allowing suggested amendments to be voted upon is intentionally not allowed, when the process includes strategically ignoring the consideration of any amendment, then the process is garbage. And when the process is garbage, the product often stinks. I'm a no today, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, 41, for explanation of vote not to exceed 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I probably need to apologize because none of these kids in the room probably know what a Pinto is. So, and explain my no vote because I am so passionate about our public school system, and we really need to give our teachers a big raise, and I'm going to depend on our committee chairs and vice chairs as the budget moves through the process to look at raises for our teachers and maybe even reducing class sizes. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, sorry.
Have all members voted? Clerk will take the roll. In 81 members voting aye, 18 members voting nay, House Bill 500 is amended by House Committee Substitute 1 is passed. Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, move for clincher.
Without objection, it is clinched. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the Clerk of the Senate.
Chair recognizes the Clerk of the Senate. Welcome, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has passed Senate Bills 157 and 214 and respectfully request concurrence of this honorable body. And, Mr. Speaker, the Senate has passed House Bill 314 and is returning same to this honorable body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Oh, that was Kentucky Wire.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, that House Bill 504 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for a third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon its passage.
Motion made that House Bill 504 be taken from its place in the orders today, read for a third time by title and sponsor only, and placed upon the floor for its passage. Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Bill 504
An act making appropriations for the operations, maintenance, support, and functioning of the judicial branch of the government of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its various officers, boards, commissioners, subdivisions, and other state-supported activities. Representative Petrie.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentleman from Todd for explanation of the bill and motion thereon.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Todd for an explanation of the bill and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you ask the clerk to report House Committee Substitute 1?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 504.
Gentleman from Todd.
Move for adoption.
Question for the body is on adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As indicated, this is the branch budget bill for the judicial branch. Much the setup is much like prior years, so no big surprise there. Thankfully, the Chief Justice came over and met with us once or twice. The CFO of that division has met with us and communicated several times, and I think we have a good product as we move forward on first draft. And for further details thereon, I would ask to yield to the lady from Kenton 65.
Chair recognizes the lady from Kenton 65.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The proposed judicial branch budget provides targeted increases to maintain court operations, address facility needs, and support mandated services across fiscal years 2026 through 2028. The general fund increases by $7.5 million in fiscal year 27 and $7 million in fiscal year 28 for the operating budget, to support mandated services such as information technology subscription fees, audio-visual system upgrades, and higher contractor rates. An additional $2 million in each fiscal year supports ongoing current services. Restricted funds increased by $13.6 million in fiscal year 26 to sustain current services and offset reduced revenue to the Master Commissioner's Fund. On local facilities fund, the general fund supports grows by $2.6 million annually to maintain court facility operations, along with additional inflationary adjustments of $2 million in fiscal year 27 and $4.3 million in fiscal year 28 for county paid operating expenses. Restricted funds address specific local needs, including $8.9 million in fiscal year 26 for uninsured flood-related costs in Franklin and Hardin counties, temporary space and fit-up costs in Bell and Boyle counties, and equipment and use allowance payments in Bell County. The budget also authorizes courthouse projects in Boyle and Bell counties. Under general provisions, the proposal amends salary language to provide a 2% increase in fiscal year 27 and a 2% increase in fiscal year 28. Overall, the budget strengthens core court operations, addresses facility and infrastructure demands, supports disaster recovery and temporary relocation needs, and provides modest salary increases to maintain workforce stability. And with that, I yield back to the gentleman from Todd.
Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe it to be a good first draft to send over to the Senate, see what they do, and we'll correct what they do when we get to the conference committee. With that, I would move for final passage of House Bill 504 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.
Motion made for the passage of House Bill 504 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, sound the chimes. We'll now proceed to vote. All those in favor, please signify by voting yea on the roll call machine. Those opposed, nay. And the roll call machine is open for your voting. Have all members voted? Would any member like to change or explain their vote? Clerk will take the roll. There being 94 yeas, 4 nays, House Bill 504 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1 is passed. Gentleman from Todd.
Mr. Speaker, if I may have a moment before the clincher, may I?
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, we have bill on earlier, and we have this bill on now. And I want to say that I'm but a small part of these bills and the ones that will be coming. Vice chairs, we have nonpartisan staff and partisan staff. They do the great bulk of work, and without them we couldn't even come close. And I know I've said something like that before, but I can tell you every single cycle I realize it more and more of how important they are. I have behind me, Mr. Speaker, Jenny Bannister and Seth Dawson, and all of their staff over on the first floor that didn't make it over, but they were in there last night. I would like for all of us to give a hand to them, please. Mr. Speaker, big thanks to Hunter May, our temporary legislative assistant, who has done yeoman's work filling in during a budget session, and more thanks than I can really convey to our partisan staff, Frank Willie, Tracy Herman, Jacob Estes, Jennifer Hayes, and Zane Rousey. They do a phenomenal job also, and a sincere thanks, and thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. Speaker, move for clencher.
Without objection, the clencher is applied. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, that concludes the orders of the day.
Next order of business is motions, petitions, communications, and announcements. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, that House Resolution 78 be brought from the Committee on Committees to the House floor.
Without objection, so ordered. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, would you have the clerk report House Resolution 78, please?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Resolution 78, a resolution commemorating the 80th Southern Legislative Conference of the Council of State Governments Southern Office. Representative Meade.
Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, this resolution that you sponsored celebrates the Southern Legislative Conference. CSG South is a nonpartisan, nonprofit member organization that serves the 15 Southern legislatures. The mission of this organization is to serve every community of the states, committed to connecting, informing, inspiring, and empowering public servants in all three branches. Mr. Speaker, I'm excited to announce, as it has been announced, because of your leadership as the chairman of the Southern Legislative Conference, that our Commonwealth will be hosting the 80th Southern Legislative Conference right down the road in Lexington, Kentucky, from July 11th to 15th, 2026. That's one our leaders won't have to leave to go to. Mr. Speaker, 1,500 Southern legislators, government staff, and their families will gather in Lexington to discuss policy matters affecting the Southern states and discuss solutions to the problems that we may have. Mr. Speaker, I move adoption of House Resolution 78.
Without objection, so ordered. Thank you, Gentleman from McCracken. Do you have anything else?
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker. I need to yield to the gentleman from Perry for a very important announcement.
Uh-oh. Don't think he's here, gentlemen.
Then I will yield to the gentleman from McGoffin, who is going to pitch hit for the gentleman from Perry.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from McGoffin.
Mr. Speaker, we would like to invite everyone down in the morning, beginning at 7 a.m., to the cafeteria for the KSPPA breakfast, open to all legislators. Please come and join us in the morning. Thank you, sir.
Left out part of it, gentlemen, but it's okay. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Bullet 49, Chair of the Enrollment Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Enrollment Committee has met and found the following bill to be in order and ready for your signature. House Bill 314.
Chair's about to sign House Bill 314. Gentleman from McCracken.
Speaker, the only other announcement that I would have, it's interesting that our enrollment chairman is dressed like our appropriations and revenue chairman today. That is all I have for motions, petitions, communications, and announcements.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson 33.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements, if I might.
You may proceed.
The first announcement is the impeachment committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in the regular locations. May I have my second announcement?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a wonderful day. Today is the day of freedom from the tyranny of reformulated gas in Louisville, Oldham County, and Bullitt County. Earlier today, Mr. Speaker, President Trump and the administration through his EPA has announced that EPA is gone. It's a thing of the past, praise God, in Jefferson County, Oldham County, and Bullitt County. It's been a long time coming. In 2019, all the majority party joined together with press conference to try to get rid of this. The gentleman from Bullitt 49 has passed several joint resolutions to get rid of reformulated gas. Recently, the gentleman from Jefferson 28 has joined into that. The governor, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to note, two of my favorite things the governor's changed his position on. He vetoed the tax reduction, as everybody remembers, and then when he ran for office, thankfully he saw clearly and decided to run on the thing that he vetoed. I'm happy that he changed his position. And this is the other thing I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, that he changed his position, because in 2019 he said reformulated gas should not be overturned, and he's changed his position, thankfully, and joined us in asking the Trump administration to reverse course. Thankfully today, Mayor Greenberg's on board, and we've got it finally done. But I have to say, in this beautiful day of freedom of tyranny of reformulated gas, it is a great day. And I don't want to get involved in any politics here, so I'm going to be clear, but I have to give credit where it's due. Recently, Congressman Andy Barr came to Louisville and said, "What can we do for you?" And the first thing I said was, "Congressman, you can help us get rid of reformulated gas." Before that conversation was over, he was on the phone with the cabinet secretary, and he was communicating to get rid of reformulated gas. We would not be here today getting rid of reformulated gas on this beautiful, wonderful freedom from tyranny, the reformulated gas day, without Congressman Barr. Mr. Speaker, what a wonderful day we've been waiting for in Louisville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the lady from Floyd 95.
Request to withdraw a bill, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
move that HB 698 be withdrawn. I am the primary sponsor, and I have filed the proper paperwork with the clerk.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Spencer 53.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to call a legislative citation.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, would you ask the clerk to report citation 46 by title only?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 46, Representative Tipton and Representative Bivens. Citation of adjournment. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky does hereby adjourn this legislative day in loving memory and honor of Dr. Charles W. Byers.
Gentleman from Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all know that as we go through life, there are people who have a tremendous impact on our life. And Dr. Charles Byers is one of those individuals who not only had an impact on me, he had an impact on many other people across the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He was my college advisor, led me through the University of Kentucky. I was an agriculture education major, led me through student teaching, and he has done that for many, many others. He spent 38 years as a professor at UK. It was exceptional teaching. He won the UK Great Teachers Award twice. He's a former Deputy Superintendent of Education and Commissioner of the Workforce Development Cabinet for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He was a two-term academic ombudsman at UK. He served as a parliamentarian for the Kentucky Farm Bureau for many years, and he will be greatly missed by all of us, by his family, and all of his former students. And, Mr. Speaker, I move adoption citation.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Webster 12.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to act on the citation.
You may proceed.
I'd ask the clerk to report House Legislative Citation number 48 by title only.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 48, Representative Gooch and Representative Williams. Citation of adjournment. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky does hereby adjourn this legislative day in loving memory and honor of Bob Florida.
Gentleman from Webster.
Mr. Speaker, I'd first like to yield to the gentleman from Hopkins for some comments on this citation.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to honor a life that was truly well lived, the life of Bob Florida. Bob helped untold people in many ways that we will never know. Matter of fact, when I called to ask about Bob's passing, a good friend of his said his own electrician had just told him how Bob had helped him get his business off the ground, and he did this without fanfare, without recognition, just because that's who he was. Story after story is followed, and business owners and employees and friends all with that same tale of quiet gratitude. And Bob and Faye were absolutely blessed by God, and they didn't begin with abundance, and they did not ever grow up with a silver spoon. In fact, I've heard that Faye still doesn't eat chicken pot pies to this day because that's all they could afford to eat when they first got married. And that's where they started, with faith and with family and with grit and with hard work, and Bob never forgot those days. But Bob Florida was a role model to many, and his family and his employees, his friends, and his church, and he showed us that you can succeed without losing your humility, that you can prosper without forgetting your beginnings, and that you can lead while you are still serving. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, and I yield back to the gentleman from Webster.
Gentleman from Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bob Florida was a really dear friend for many decades to the entire Gooch family, including my dad and my uncles and my brother and all of us, and he will be dearly missed. This highly regarded gentleman, he was a respected resident of Madisonville, Kentucky, a faithful member of the First Baptist Church of Madisonville, where he earned the title of Deacon Emeritus. He was an accomplished businessman who owned Madisonville Auto Parts and was active in many other business ventures, and he was a man of tremendous warmth, integrity, and good humor. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm honored today to adjourn this House in loving memory and honor of Bob Florida. I move adoption.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson 31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to call Legislative Citation 47 and have it read by title only, please.
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 47, Representative Whitten, citation of appreciation. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky hereby recognizes and honors Norton Children's Hospital.
Lady from Jefferson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For more than 130 years, Norton Children's has been a trusted lifeline for families across Kentucky and neighboring states. As our Commonwealth's only pediatric Level 1 trauma center, Norton provides critical and often life-saving care to children when they need it most. While the downtown hospital has served families well for decades, demand for pediatric care has outgrown the current facility. To meet that need, Norton Healthcare is building a new, state-of-the-art Norton Children's Campus in Jeffersontown, right in the heart of District 31, an investment that will transform pediatric care for Kentucky and beyond. I am truly blessed to have this new campus in my district, and we are all fortunate to have an institution like Norton Children's serving families across the Commonwealth. What makes this effort especially meaningful is Norton's commitment to listening to the people of Kentucky and Southern Indiana. Leaders have held community sessions across Kentucky and Southern Indiana for months. One message is clear, and those of us here today are aware. The need for expanded mental and behavioral health services for children is urgent. This is more than a building project. It is a community-driven vision that will serve families in every district represented here today. I thank Norton Healthcare and Norton Children's for their dedication, their willingness to listen, and their unwavering commitment to Kentucky's children. So, Mr. Speaker, I move adoption of Citation 47.
Without objection, so ordered. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Rowan 99.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
May I recall a bill, please?
You may proceed.
I'd like to recall House Bill 310 as I've filed.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. May I
Gentleman from
also-
Rowan, you have a citation as well? Or you have a citation as well?
Yes, sir. May
May
I
proceed.
call citation 43?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 43, Representative White. Citation of adjournment. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky does hereby adjourn this legislative day in loving memory and honor of Lloyd Dean.
Gentleman from Rowan.
Today I rise to honor the life and legacy of the truly remarkable Kentuckian, Mr. Lloyd Dean of Moorhead, who passed away on February 13th this year, has left a profound void in the hearts of his family, community, and all who had the privilege of knowing him. Mr. Dean shared 60 beautiful years of marriage with his beloved wife, Arvetta, and together they built a life centered on faith, family, and community. He answered the call to serve his country as a proud member of the United States Air Force, serving honorably on active duty and continued in the reserves. Upon returning home to Moorhead, Lloyd found the Moorhead United Pentecostal Church and served as pastor for more than 4 decades. He ministered in prisons for 17 years, taught drug prevention classes for 2 decades, and led services in the Life Care Center for nearly 40 years, and shared messages of encouragement through his radio program, I Have Hope. Lloyd was deeply committed to education. As a graduate of Moorhead State University, he dedicated his career to shaping young lives. He supported programs like 4-H, Future Farmers of America, and historical societies, helping instill pride, knowledge, and opportunity in generations. For his love of community was equally evident, Lloyd was a founding member of the Hayes Crossing Haldeman Volunteer Fire Department, Haldeman Hayes Crossing Community Center, and the Haldeman Museum. He founded the Round County Historical Society and worked tirelessly to preserve the heritage and stories of the region he loved so dearly. But above all his accomplishments, Lloyd Dean will be remembered as a man of tremendous warmth and integrity, vision, a man who lived not for recognition but for purpose. His life was testament to the power of his faith, importance of service, and lasting impact on the person can only have on a community. I move for adoption of legislative citation 43 in his honor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Without objection, citation is adopted. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Warren 20.
Act on a citation, please.
You may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, would you ask the clerk to call citation number 37?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 37, Representative Jackson. Citation of celebration. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky hereby recognizes and honors Gary Force Honda of Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Gentleman from Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, each of us have a handful of businesses in our district that have been around for many years. There's usually 2 reasons for that. Number 1, they have a great product, and number 2, they have great service. Today I want to celebrate one of those businesses in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Gary Force Honda Auto Dealership is celebrating their 50th anniversary. Founded by Gary Force in 1976, the business has experienced exceptional growth and prosperity over the years, expanding from just 5 employees and a single service bay to 73 service bays and 105 team members today. The dealership has sold over 20,000 new vehicles and 41,000 pre-owned vehicles and generated more than $1.9 billion in revenue. I should have had some ownership in that. Amazingly, it is the only Honda dealership in the entire United States to have earned Honda's highest honor, the Honda President's Award, for a remarkable 27 years. We are very proud to have Gary Force Honda in Bowling Green under the ownership of Gary Force and Tim Canale. Tim and I have been friends since our WKU days and our Friday afternoon golfing buddies. Again, congratulations to Gary Force Honda on your 50th anniversary. Mr. Speaker, I move for adoption.
Without objection, the citation is adopted. Time has expired for motion petition communications, but I have one more member in the queue, so I'll let her proceed. Lady from Jefferson 43.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I have the clerk call citation 38?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
Citation 38, Representative Stevenson. Citation of adjournment. The House of Representatives of the Commonwealth of Kentucky does hereby adjourn this legislative day in loving memory and honor of Cora May Fogle.
Lady from Jefferson.
Mr. Speaker, Cora May Fogle was an 18-year-old young lady full of life that lost her life due to cancer. She is the granddaughter of Kenny and Donna Fogle, and she lived in Colorado, but she was from Bardstown, Kentucky. She was talented, she was passionate, she wrote 2 books. She had an animal, a little lizard called Peaches, that she loved. And she wanted more than anything to go to the University of Colorado in Denver to become an animal specialist. She didn't get that chance. She leaves behind a whole host of people that love her, including her parents, but more importantly, her sister Sarah and her younger brother Sammy. They expressed their profound love for her, and they asked that this adjournment in her honor remind us that life is precious. She wanted to live, and we get to live in her stead. Thank you. Move for adoption.
Without objection, citation is adopted. Next order of business is introduction of new bills and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Bill 760, Representative Whitten, an act relating to the certified rehabilitation credit and declaring an emergency. House Bill 761, Representative Lehman, an act relating to Riverport authorities and declaring an emergency. House Bill 762, Representative Dietz, an act relating to legal representation. House Bill 763, Representative McCool, an act relating to workforce development, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring an emergency. House Bill 764, Representative Emily Callaway, an act relating to fetal homicide. House Bill 765, Representative Tackett Lafferty, an act relating to volunteer fire departments. House Bill 766, Representative Bratcher, an act relating to student housing. House Bill 767, Representative Fugit, an act relating to emergency management and declaring an emergency. House Bill 768, Representative Williams, an act relating to Kentucky working credit. House Bill 769, Representative Stevenson, an act relating to Kentucky Educational Excellence Scholarships. House Bill 770, Representative Grossberg, an act relating to teacher scholarships. House Bill 771, Representative Chester Burton, an act relating to earned paid sick leave. House Bill 772, Representative Chester Burton, an act relating to employment discrimination. House Bill 773, Representative Holloway, an act relating to domestic violence. House Bill 774, Representative Decker, an act relating to the reporting of costs, fines, and fees. House Bill 775, Representative Decker, an act relating to the selection and oversight of Article 5 convention delegates and declaring an emergency. House Resolution 85, Representative Neighbors, a resolution designating March 2026 as Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month in Kentucky. House Joint Resolution 86, Representative Miles, a joint resolution directing the Personnel Cabinet in consultation with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture to integrate community-supported agriculture purchases into the wellness rewards programs offered to public employees and retirees who receive health insurance coverage through the Kentucky Employees Health Plan. And House Resolution 87, Representative Hancock, a resolution recognizing March 8th through the 14th, 2026 as Multiple Sclerosis Awareness Week in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The next order of business is a meeting of the Committee on Committees and Rules Committee. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, the House would be in recess for a meeting of the Committee on Committees and the Rules Committee at the clerk's desk.
Without objection, the House will stand in recess for a meeting of the Committee on Committees and Rules Committee at the clerk's desk. House come to order. Next order of business is a report of the Committee on Committees and Rules Committee. Mr. Clerk, please report.
The Committee on Committees has met and referred the following bills and resolutions to Agriculture, House Bills 678 and 687. To Appropriations and Revenue, House Bills 672, 673, 674, and 675. To Economic Development and Workforce Investment, House Bill 683. To Families and Children, House Bill 686. To Health Services, House Bill 676. To Judiciary, House Bills 680 and 684. To Local Government, House Bill 682. To Natural Resources and Energy, House Joint Resolution 77. To Post-Secondary Education, House Bill 681. To Primary and Secondary Education, House Bill 685. And to Tourism and Outdoor Recreation, House Bill 679. The Rules Committee has met and posted the following bills and resolutions to the regular orders for Friday, February 27, 2026, House Bill 658.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Those bills referred by the Committee on Committees shall be considered eligible for consideration and action by the committee at the discretion of the committee chair. The next order of business is the introduction of floor amendments. Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Floor Amendment 18 to House Bill 2 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Smith. House Floor Amendment 19 to House Bill 2 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Gordon. House Floor Amendment 1 to House Bill 5 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Kulkarni. House Floor Amendment 9 to House Bill 500, Representative Burke. House Floor Amendment 10 to House Bill 500, Representative Burke. House Floor Amendment 11 to House Bill 500, Representative Hancock. House Floor Amendment 12 to House Bill 500 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Camuel. House Floor Amendment 13 to House Bill 500, Representative Watkins. House Floor Amendment 14 to House Bill 500 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Donworth. House Floor Amendment 15 to House Bill 500 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Donworth. House Floor Amendment 4 to House Bill 534, Representative Hancock. House Floor Amendment 5 to House Bill 534 with House Committee Sub 1, Representative Moore. House Floor Amendment 6, the title amendment, to House Bill 534, Representative Moore. And House Floor Amendment 1 to House Bill 613, Representative Hodgson.
Next order of business is adjournment. Gentleman from McCracken.
Mr. Speaker, I move you, sir, the House will stand adjourned until 9 a.m. Friday, February 27, the year of our Lord, 2026.
Without objection, the House will stand adjourned until 9 a.m. Friday, February 27th, the year of our Lord, 2026.